In this set of videos, we're going to look at a very basic real application testing capture from a source database and then replay on a target database. So it's very basic in that we're using the minimal amount of commands to capture and then to replay. Obviously, there are much more advanced features that can be added, but this is to really kind of show the framework for real application testing. So we can see we're on a host called SourceDB. And if I log into the container database, we can see the container source database we're going to be using is 19C. And it's running a pluggable database called SourceDB PDB. So from 19C, you can capture use RAT captures directly from within pluggable databases, and that's what we're going to be showing in this video. So the first thing to do is to connect as the pluggable database. So we're connected to the pluggable database. On this terminal, I have a series of scripts, which I'm going to show you, and then we're going to apply those scripts to the source database and run a capture. So the pluggable database has an SOE schema within it, and that schema is running a Swingbench, is hosting a Swingbench schema. So we're going to run a Swingbench load, and we're going to capture that load and then replay that load on the target system. So the first script we're going to look at, or the first command we're going to look at, is the add filter. So when we're performing a capture, it may be that we want to capture all of the events that are running in the database at that time and then just exclude certain events that we're not interested in. So maybe just excluding, say, RMAN events or Enterprise Manager events, but capture everything else. Or it may be that we want to exclude everything that's happening in the database and only include certain events. And this kind of is dependent on when we start the capture, whether we go for an exclusion or inclusion default action. So what we want to capture is the Swingbench workload that's running within the SOE schema of this pluggable database. So we're going to add a filter that we'll call SOE filter. We're going to filter by user, and that user is SOE. When we run the capture, we'll basically issue a exclude all, and then this filter will basically allow us to capture just the SOE events. So let's run this filter. The filter will be used for the next capture, and then if you want to recapture, you would have to reapply the filter. So we can see we've added the filter, SOE filter. And you can look at the filters that are in place using the DBA workload filters view. So the next thing we need to do is start the capture. Let me just expand this out so it's a bit more clear. Right, I think I will edit the script. So when we're capturing workload, we'll be using the DBMS workload capture package. And when we replay, we'll be using the DBMS workload replay package. So we're going to run the start capture command. We're going to basically name that capture. We're going to call this production server load capture. And we're going to pass it a directory. So this directory object will be where the capture files are stored. This directory, or the directory pointed to by the directory we're going to use called db replay load, needs to be empty at the start of the capture. So we can either let the capture run for as long as we want, and then we can issue a finish capture command to stop the capture, or we can time the capture. So in this case, we're timing it for 300 seconds, which probably isn't long enough. So let's time that for 900 seconds. If we need to, we can capture the SQL tuning set that's being created during the run. So we'll set that to true. And we can set the SQL tuning set capture interval. Again, we should match that to the time of the run. Our default action is to exclude. This means the capture will exclude all events that are happening within the database, apart from those that have been created by filter. So we've created a filter for the SOE user, which means that everything will be ignored apart from actions that are taking part within the SOE user. And we've also issued the PL SQL mode to extended. So Swingbench uses PL SQL extensively. So this is allowing the capture to capture more in-depth PL SQL details as well, rather than just SQL statements. Let me save that. So I will now issue that against the database, and the capture will start. So we can see that that has executed successfully. So now the capture is taking place, but we need to run a load to be captured. So I'm going to run this shell script that will just start Swingbench off for us and actually create load within the SOE schema. I'll just edit the script to ensure that it also runs for an appropriate amount of time. Here it's only running for 2 minutes. So let's get this to run for 11 minutes. So this is just simulating a load for us. This is going to be creating events for us, which the capture will be capturing. So we can see we have transactions per second taking place against the SOE schema, transactions per minute, and that will ramp up. And this load is going to run for 11 minutes. We have our capture period set to 900 seconds, so that will automatically stop after 900 seconds. While the capture is taking place, we can view the capture from the DBA workload captures view. So here I'm going to select the ID of the capture, the name, the status, the start time, the end time, the connects, the user calls, the directory path that's being used from the DBA workload capture. So let's run that script. Ooh. So we can see the information. We can see we're on capture ID 1. We get the name of the capture, which we named PRD server load capture. This was named in the capture start. We can see the status is in progress. We can see the start time. We can see when it's going to end because we selected a duration for this capture. You can leave this open and then just, as I said, run the stop capture command explicitly. We have 7 connections. We can see the number of user calls so far, and we can see the directory path in which the files are going to be written to. So now we'll just wait while the load runs through and the capture completes. So the run is completed. Let's see if the capture is still running, because we had the capture for a longer period than the actual load we were loading. So you can see the it's still in progress. So we'll just wait for the capture to finish, and then we can generate a capture status report. We can see that the capture has now completed. It's run through with the completed status. We can see there was 8 connects, and we can see the number of user calls. If we look at the directory we passed in, if we look at that path, we can see some directories have been created with the relevant files. So now we have the capture. We can generate a capture report. So here in this script, we're going to generate a workload capture report, and then we're going to export out the AWR from the capture period. I'll do that first. So let's export out the AWR data. Now we know the capture ID is 1, so it's asking for the capture ID. So we'll that. Now these reports can be generated as HTML or as text. In this example, we're just generating it as text. As can be seen from the command line. So we'll run this report once the AWR export has completed. Okay, so let's run our command to generate the report. Now that we've successfully exported the AWR. Again, it's asking for the capture ID, so we've only have one capture. It's ID 1. And we can look through the report, and it shows us all sorts of information. Let's go back up to the top. So it shows the database name, the database ID, the release, the name of the capture, and the status. It shows us the start and end time, the duration, the capture size, and the PL SQL subcall, because we had the PL SQL mode extended. It's a 1.67, 1.12 for the PL SQL capture size. It tells us the directory object that we used and the directory path. This is the directory we just looked at. And we can see that we had one inclusion filter in place, which was for our SOE user. If we scroll down through, we can see the DB time in seconds, the average active sessions, the user calls captured with errors, the PL SQL calls captured, and the PL SQL database time in seconds, and the PL SQL subcalls captured, session logins, and the number of transactions. If we go through, we can see how our time was spent. So here we can see CPU and wait for CPU was the majority of the time, and then we had some IO related waits as well. We can see the top service modules captured, so new order, browse products, sales rep query, update customer details, warehouse order query. So these were the type of processes that were being run within the Swingbench workload, and we can see their activity as a percentage. If we look at the top SQL captured, we can see the SQL IDs. What we're doing here: order entry dot new order, browse products, sales rep query, warehouse query, and we can also see top sessions captured as well. So the report is useful to see how the capture went. We can see we're only capturing from the SOE user because the filter was in place. So we can see some events containing unreplayable calls. So the log file sync event. So as you see, it's quite a comprehensive report. So this ends the first video, which was the capture. So in the second video, we're going to look at the replay. So for the replay, we need to ensure that we've copied our database across, or we have a copy of our database running on the target system so that it's the same as the capture database. And we also need to make sure that all of the files under that directory, under the capture directory, are also copied across onto the target host. So the target host, the target database, can access those files to enable the replay. Thanks for watching.